Happy New Year, Cap fans, and welcome to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. It's episode 221, and it's January 1st. And welcome to the show. I'm Rick Verbanis. I'm your host, and I got a best gosh darn co-host out there. His name is Bob Lucius. Oh, Bob. And surely you'll buy your cup, and surely I'll buy mine. We'll take a cup of kindness yet, for the sake of auld lang syne. We two who've paddled in the stream from morning sun till night, the seas between us roared and swelled since the days of auld lang syne. For old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind, should old acquaintance be forgot for the sake of auld lang syne.
Wow, what a beautiful rendition, Rick. But
Well, Happy
please
New Year,
don't
Bob.
don't call me Shirley.
No, you know what? I kind of saw your eyes light up when I said that.
You did, didn't you?
I
Yeah.
did. I was like, I know it's coming.
You
I
do.
know it's
Yeah, you saw
coming.
that. You should have known that was coming anyway. But
I really did.
yeah. Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
happy New
So
Year to you.
thank you. It's 2025.
Wow.
Crazy. When things like this happen, like 2025, that's a big year, right?
Big
Like
number.
it's yeah, right.
Yeah.
Um, I recall. I think it was in 1990, which again, that's like kind of a big thing too. And you change a decade and you go into a new number. I remember sitting with my dad. It was one of, I wouldn't say it was an adult conversation. I was still a kid, but, I was old enough to have this conversation. I think I was, in college. And I remember asking him, it's like, do you ever imagine being around in 1990, Dad? And and I think I'm probably the age now that he was when I asked him
Yeah.
this question.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, hey, you're really old, like did
Yeah.
but I was more of like hey, when you were a kid, did you ever think of like someday 1990? So I don't remember like do you remember being a kid and thinking, "Oh, in the year 2025,
Right.
I wonder
Yeah.
what I'm going to be
I,
doing."
I I remember watching Space 1999 and thinking, gosh, I wonder what I'll be doing in 1999.
Right. Well, apparently partying,
Yeah, well, that too.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But like even that seemed far off. 2025? Like, no, that's like in the realm of Star Trek science fiction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have jets and stuff long before now.
Yeah. Well, we got drones.
We do have drones and apparently a lot of them, Rick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of crazy things going on,
Yeah.
The computers are going to take over, Bob.
Yeah, do you remember? And I know you're just barely old enough, but I know you're old enough to remember. I was telling my son this the other day. In one of those conversations he barely tolerates as we're driving in the car. I was telling him about the whole Y2K frenzy.
Oh, yeah.
You
Yeah.
remember that,
How
right?
would you wait a minute? Why are you even like, well, you're kind of old enough to remember this. What do you think? Oh my God, that was 25 years ago.
I know. I'm just messing with you, Rick, because you look so
Yeah.
young.
I
So
appreciate
I
it.
don't want to give away the secret to the
It's
to
the
the viewing
shiny
audience.
head.
I mean, you're like, oh my God, is he that old?
Well,
But
the idea is, Bob, if you lose your hair, you don't
uh-huh.
turn gray.
I'm assuming, I have more gray on my chest than I do on my head at this point. So I'm sad to say. And unfortunately, it's not just on the front of my torso at this point. So,
uh,
oh my goodness.
yeah. Yeah. So, and for those out there who are listening when this drops, because we always say it's the first Wednesday. Well, it's every Wednesday. It's like New Comic Day when our episodes
Mm-hmm.
come out, and I'd like to think, my goodness, we've been doing this for 4 years. We've been pretty religious about it. Um, but I mean, technically, it does come out, at 10 p.m. the night before, and there are people who do listen to it when it comes out on Tuesday nights. And for all of you who are listening right now on New Year's Eve, I got to tell you, I'm a little um, amazed that you are bringing us along on your journey into 2025. That
Wow.
is we're honored to be here with you.
That's a really great way to look at it, Rick. I hadn't really thought about that, but you're right. You know, it's an important transition from one year to another, and it's nice to have folks along on the journey with you. So I'm certainly glad that we can be along on the journey of some listeners anyway who are listening to it tonight.
Yeah. And it's funny is like I don't know about you, but I tend to get a little bit I use this time of year to kind of reflect, right? I reflect on the year before. I think about things that I want to work on, things I want to change, goals I have for 2025. Um, and so, it's kind of like an important, take stock,
Yeah.
work on it from there. But what about you, Bob? What do you do during this time of year? Do you do anything special like that?
No, not really, Rick. No. You know,
No self-reflection for this guy.
no whatsoever. No, I self reflect all year long, and but I don't really do anything about it. So, you know, I've learned that I have a tendency to want to put things off and put it off till I'll just do it in the new year. And so I've tried really hard not to do that and to try to I'm a very reflective person. In fact, almost too much. I'm almost too much in my head. So like I've been getting up, for the last 6 months, going out for a walk in the morning. I got to get up in the morning. I make a lunch for my son before he goes off to school, pack his lunch, and then I head out for a long walk. But it was going to be a run, but then I decided, well, no, I'm just going to do a walk. And it turns out I don't really like it because I don't like that. I don't like that much time in my head.
uh,
So I don't like it. So because I am, very reflective and I can be a little self-critical. So, but there are definitely things that I look forward to the new year as maybe a fresh start to try some new things. So I'm definitely, and I think everybody should really look at the opportunity in the coming year to practice self-care, right? We all need to do that. I'm sure you know what that means just as I do, and lots of our listeners know that we don't do
are we
enough.
talking about like a alone time, Bob? Like, you know, what do we?
special alone time, Rick. No, no, well, if that's what it takes
I don't
for
know what
you,
the
then
kids are calling it now. Self
yeah.
care is that what they're calling it? I don't know. No, I hear what you're saying, Bob. Yeah, we
Yeah.
all need to make sure that we take care of ourselves. It's one of those funny things is, I remember being younger and being on a plane and hearing I'm just gonna say stewardess because that's what she was at the time when
Right.
she told me this. That was her
Yeah.
title. Not me, but she's going through the various safety regulations that you have to do, before the flight takes off. And one of the things that was, in case of lack of oxygen, the mask will drop down. Make sure you put it over yourself first and then your child. And I remember being a kid going, "What? No, no, no. You have to. You got to do me first." And then, it
Yeah.
wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, like, well, yeah, because if you pass out, then you can't take care of your kids. So you have to take care of yourself first. And that was just something I always thought about, as a father,
Yeah.
especially when you're busy and, you have the kids are little and you're driving around everywhere, you're doing all these different activities and,
Mm.
you have your own job. And then, maybe in some cases you're one of the sandwich generations, you're also taking care of, a parent or something like that. And, yeah, you gotta take some time to take care of yourself or else you're no good to anyone else.
That's right. That's a good analogy. The oxygen mask on the airplane. So that's great food for thought. I think I'm certainly going to think about that one more and try to put on my mask a little bit more in the coming year.
Birthdays, if you're listening to this in another day, we've got a comic creator celebrating a birthday. Oh, what the heck. Don Heck is celebrating a birthday January 2nd. Now, for Cap fans, you may say, I don't remember him working on Captain America, and you would be right. But he he was the artist in the post Jack Kirby Avengers time period in those days, and he drew plenty of Captain America out there. And so, happy birthday to Don Heck.
Is Don still with us?
I
Happy birthday.
probably should have not said it the way I said it. Happy birthday to Don Heck. No, he passed like 30 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I haven't been keeping up.
Yeah. But it's a good way to remember Don Heck,
Oh,
on
absolutely.
his birthday.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
that's what I really meant. Oh, Bob, way to bring it down. Um, Bob, one other thing before I move on. This is the final week. The final week, we are going to be accepting submissions for to win this particular comic, Fallen Sun: Death of Captain America. This is the last one, issue 5, which is written by Jeff Loeb and penciled by John Cassidy, and here it is, signed by 18 different creators, all who have had some work with Cap over the years, and this was in honor. Speaking of birthdays and remembering people, for John Cassidy's birthday on December 14th. And we had a very generous donation of this by patron Seth Offenberger. And so thank you to Seth. And what we're doing is, if you make a donation to the American Heart Association, you are entered into the raffle. And so we chose that because John Cassidy passed earlier this year of heart failure, and so we thought this was a good way of honoring his life. Another way for you to get an entry, so you can add this on if you've already made a donation. You can do this too, and that's just to make sure you go to YouTube and follow us on YouTube, subscribe, and then share. You can either share our channel, share a video, whatever. Just take a screenshot and email it to capcomicfans@gmail.com, and that is a free way to get entered into this contest. So make sure you do it soon, because next episode we want to announce the winner.
Such a great prize, and so generous an offer by Seth as well. So I do hope folks jump on this opportunity to do good things and get a great prize potentially. So all around, it's a win.
Uh, so getting back to the new year, Bob, do you have any New Year's resolutions?
It's just the one that I mentioned, Rick. I really do. I feel it. I'm getting older. I turned 57. By the time this airs, I will be 57, and I definitely feel it. I was out tonight. I was a little bit late joining you tonight because my wife sent me a text this afternoon and said, "Hey, she did this leadership program that I'm in right now, and she did it maybe like three years ago, and they get together every couple months, her entire class. And so tonight they were getting together for a little social event at a local restaurant, and she said, "Hey, do you want to come along?" And I was like, "Absolutely, if that means I don't have to cook dinner." So so we went, and like I'm shaking people's hand because I'm meeting them, and I have like arthritis in my thumb knuckle of my right hand, and it hurts every
Oh
time
no.
every time I shake a hand. And I'm
Oh.
like, oh my God, I couldn't even like punch anybody if I wanted to. Not that I,
Bob, you're not supposed to tuck your thumb into your fist like that, because you can break your thumb when you punch somebody. Didn't
I
they
do
teach
know
you
that.
that in the
I
military?
do know that, but any pressure on like my closed fist causes my thumb to hurt. So I'm like, ah, man, I gotta start taking better care of myself, right? I gotta slow down, do that self-care that we talked about, really make a concerted effort to watch my weight and eat better, and all those things and just takes time to, like you said, take time to reflect and relax, enjoy a hobby. And so that's my resolution for the coming years, to really try to do those things, so that I can be here for my family in a positive way, for years to come, or at
I
least as
love
long
it.
as they want me around.
I love it. I
Yeah,
think that's great.
yeah. And how about yourself?
Well, I mean, I sound like a broken record. I mean, I want to lose 15 pounds. I kind of gave up on that from Thanksgiving to now.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I'm not
The
bad,
holiday season.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now, yeah, I'm gonna try to do a dry January. I'm going to um, get back on my Fitness Pal and count my calories,
All
and
right. All right.
my goal is to get back into some clothes that I miss.
Nice. Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Skinny jeans. Skinny
yeah.
jeans.
Um,
Yeah.
and the other thing too is I want to be a little bit more mm, proactive, especially at work. To kind of be less reactive.
Hmm.
I think that
Yeah.
would help with the
Yeah.
stress level too.
Sure.
So, yeah, those are my
All
goals.
right. Good
Uh,
goals.
yeah, and now speaking of goals, we decided for today's episode, since it comes out on New Year's Day, what better than to do a top 10 list of top 10 Captain America New Year resolutions? And I think we got some fun with this, Bob. So
Yeah.
we're saying Steve Rogers. So um, if we were Steve Rogers, what would we say is our top 10 New Year's resolutions? Now,
Yeah.
I got five, you picked
Yeah.
five, and I think it'd be fun for us to kind of go back and forth. What do you think?
All right, I like that idea. I think we got some fun ones to play with tonight. Ones that I hope cause a chuckle maybe in some of our listeners, and maybe some homework on their part as well. Something to enjoy to listen to here on New Year's Eve.
I'll tell you what. You go first.
Okay.
We'll start with number 10 and work our way down.
All right.
And so for you, number 10.
Yep. So for me, number 10 on Steve Rogers' New Year's Eve resolution is to update that holiday card list. So, Rick, I don't know about you, but it's a major evolution here at the Lucius household as we plan, prepare, and send out the holiday cards every year. And so we have a master list of people and addresses, and we're very strategic about it in the household, right?
Now,
Because
I'm going to pause right here because I feel honored
yeah.
that I am on this master list.
Well, you are, and I want to tell you why, right? Because we don't just like willy nilly send out these cards. We send out cards to people that we want to know that we're thinking of them in the holiday season. So this isn't like the family newsletter or anything like that. We just want people to know that we're thinking about them over the holidays. And so we pick the folks on our master list. And every now and again, we go through and scrub it, folks that we haven't, talked to in a very long time or thought of, or, whatever. Maybe we had a falling out with them. Maybe not. Maybe we just moved on with our lives. But so the list is important. So when I think of Steve Rogers, I think, well, certainly he must have a list, right? But when we think about all the people in Steve Rogers' life that he has lost in over the recent years since he came out of the ice, right? You think about Jack Monroe, you think about Jack Harrison, right? AKA Jack Flag. We think about Fred Davis, the second Bucky, who he met and knew very well. You think about Chester Phillips and Arnie Roth and Jeff Mates, right? And of course, and then he has to add people. So like Peggy fell off, but she's back alive now, so she's back on the list, right? So he's got to update that card list. And you think about all the people that Steve Rogers has run into, has formed relationships with since he came out of the ice, and who he knew, maybe before he came out of the ice, right back in the 40s, that are still alive. Who is on his list? It can't be an infinite list. He's got to narrow it down somewhat. Those cards are expensive, right?
Yeah,
So
sure.
who's going to be on that list? And he's going to have to update it. So why not get it done this new year and get that list updated and get that done? And so similarly, I said, it's a major process here in the Lucius household. We gotta design the cards. So this year, my wife was like, all right, I'm going to do the cards. I want to know what's going to be in the cards. Some years we do Photoshop cards. For one year, we had a card before Bobby came along. It was me and my wife. We were at Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and we Photoshopped our cat into the picture because those cats were our kids at the time. Or when Bobby first was born, it was Bobby and I and her, Casey, in front of the fireplace, and we Photoshopped the cats all around us. Right. So we put a lot of effort into thinking about our cards. So I want to. I think this is a great opportunity for our listeners. I know it's after the holidays when you're hearing this, but I would love some folks to design some Steve Rogers holiday cards and what they would look like. What pictures would Steve put on his, Shutterfly cards that he orders and sends out to folks on his list? I think that'd be a lot of fun if folks wanted to share those.
I like the idea. Yeah. All right. So number 10 is Steve updating his holiday card list. All right. Well then, I got to ask you. Um, so in this past year, um, who did he who did he take off the list after this past year, and who did he add? Just
Ooh.
one for each.
Well, gosh, I mean, I've named quite a few, right? Because you got to think about, like, sometimes we pull the list out and I send a bunch of cards off and they come back and they're like, oh, this person's deceased, or, this person doesn't live at this address anymore, cannot forward, right? And we're like, oh my gosh, we just sent all these cards out to people who aren't around anymore. So, I bet, Steve's a busy man. And like, he's thinking about all these folks out there that he's known over the years, and he pulls out his list, sends out his Christmas cards, and realizes when they come back that, oh yeah, they're no longer with us. And I named quite a few of those, and one of them that's back on the list, even though she passed away and now she's back as the dryad, is Peggy. So there you have it. We got to update that list from time to time.
All right. Uh, so for me, number 9 on the top 10 Captain America New Year resolutions. Um, I see this as like I said, we people kind of when they're doing their New Year's resolutions, right? They're looking at how do I get fit, or how do I do this? How do I make myself better? How do I reconnect with people?
Mm-hmm.
And I think number 9 is see how Ian is doing. So this is going to be his son, Ian, right? We
Yeah.
haven't seen him for over a year now. And since the October of 2023 Captain America finale, the one that was written by Jackson Lansing and Colin
Right.
Kelly.
Yep.
And that was when Ian was put in charge of Dimension Z. And so we haven't heard or seen of Ian since then, and I think that would be high on Steve's list. Like I got to reconnect and check in with my son.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's been a long time for somebody who is as close to him as Ian is. So yeah, that would definitely be high on this list.
Yeah, and I hope there are some writers out there who bring Ian back at some level. Just doesn't have to be a major story or a major character, but I think having Ian in Steve's life, it really humanizes him in a level that I find very relatable. Um, but also, as we saw during the whole Cold War story, that it made him a little unreasonable and off his game because his son was in danger and was
Yeah,
at risk, and he was purely focused on that and took too many risks himself.
yeah,
And it took Sam Wilson to kind of get him back on track. So I hope somebody brings the character back and it's just not a forgotten character.
yeah. No, that's an important point. I mean, he's been with Sharon a very long time, but they ain't married, right? But Ian's his son, and by adoption for sure. But that's family in a way that you can't get rid of, right? So yeah, it can affect you in very strange ways to have that sort of powerful emotional connection. So it's odd to not follow up on it, and it has been too long. So let's hope that's resolved.
All right, Bob, what do you got for number 8?
All right, so this was inspired by Grant Baugh, right? One of our favorite listeners and members of the Facebook group, and his Cap Facts. And also a little bit by remember that PSA, the Captain America PSA from, I think it was Spider-Man Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think Steve Rogers is going to resolve himself to learn how to use social media. So it's newfangled technology for sure, but I bet he would want to maybe set aside some time to learn how to make a TikTok or an Instagram video, and maybe put out some of those Cap Facts, right, of his own. Those PSAs to reach out to the kiddos, because he used to have the what was the Captain America Network, right, with RAM,
Mm-hmm.
right? They used the ham radios to get word to to Steve when something needed to be addressed. And I think, Steve would want to be able to use social media in that same way, but not just in a reception mode, but in a transmission mode to talk about what the American dream means to him, and to give hope to those who need hope in not just in our society, but around the world. And what better way than to use the medium of the current age, which is social media. And so I think he would take the time in the coming year to maybe learn how to use that more effectively.
All right, that's interesting. So, um, when you said this newfangled technology, right? But then you think about it, Bobby doesn't know life without it.
That's right. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
It is crazy to think about. And there was some recent research that came out that was something like 20% of the population gets all their news from social media.
I believe it. Yeah.
So, if Steve Rogers wants to reach the citizens of the country, the citizens of the world, then he has to use the medium that they're comfortable with, particularly the younger generation. So I think he would devote the time to do that, knowing how important it is to speak to those people.
All right. Which platform do you think he would gravitate towards?
Well, I do think, it's funny because I have these arguments all the time with my staff at work. I'm a Facebook guy. I'm older, right?
Hmm.
And MySpace is no longer viable. So onto Facebook and LinkedIn. My staff all about Instagram.
Hmm.
My son's age group, they're all about TikTok.
Hmm.
So I think Steve would recognize that you gotta use different mediums to speak to different age groups, and so I think he'd learn to use them all. But I think in terms of how he would do that, I think he would be a very effective communicator. I love that PSA, and I think that would be just the sort of thing that he could do. Maybe he would pair up with Grant and make CapFax a joint effort.
Oh, that'd be fun to see.
That would. All right. So what do you got for your number 7?
All right, Bob. So the again, going back to if when you're doing New Year's resolutions, right? Like, how can I improve myself, right? Like, so Cap's not going to say I need to eat better because he eats fine. I need to drink less. I think he's fine there. I need to work out more. No, I think he's good there. So what else can he do to kind of help improve himself? So number 7 on the top 10 Captain America New Year's resolutions is go to church more often.
Interesting. Interesting.
Because I don't know. I mean, maybe that's something. Yeah, as you said, people get older. They tend to find God a little bit more, right? So, I don't know if it's because getting closer to the end or they just have more free time.
Hedging their bets. Yes.
Right.
Right.
Um, but I think, and I tried to do a little research on this, and what religion is Steve Rogers, and a lot of stuff comes up for the MCU, right? Like there's
Okay.
a famous quote I think in the first Avengers movie, um, when he sees Thor or something like that. And I think he says something to the
All
effect of,
right.
"Ma'am, there's only one true God, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that."
Yeah.
So a lot of people reference that. But as far as the comics were concerned, um, many people, I couldn't find anything for sure, but many people speculate that he's Catholic,
Makes sense.
being that the Irish
Irish
immigrant
heritage,
coming
right?
over,
Yeah.
to the country, that maybe Protestant, something like that. So, um, anyway, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I think Steve would. I think maybe I don't know. Maybe make a resolution to practice his faith a little bit more. Who knows?
Interesting. Yeah. I think, I it's a way to connect with people, right? It's a way, he's had so many of these journeys of going across the country to, rediscover what America's all about and reconnect with folks. And I think he would use this as an opportunity to do that. And the interesting thing, my view, the way I see Steve is I could see him visiting all kinds of different houses of worship, trying to better understand people and their faith. And because I find, that obviously brings me, not obviously, but it does for me, strengthen my faith when I have touch points with people, even of other faiths. So I think Steve would be that sort of person. He might, go visit his Buddhist neighbors house of faith, or a mosque, or a Protestant house of worship, Lutherans, Calvinists, whatever, as well as Catholic churches. I think he's open enough to probably explore all those possibilities as a pathway to connect with people of faith, who form a solid majority of people in the United States. And so I think that'd be important to him.
All right. For number 6, Bob, what do you got?
Well, number 6 on Steve Rogers' resolutions for the new year, Rick, is, and I'm sure you will appreciate this, look into an electric motorcycle to cut down on emissions. So, we have we have talked about this on a number
Yeah.
of occasions, enough that people have brought it up in conversations with us. That you always point out, when Steve's motorcycle is moving, because it has the billowing clouds of exhaust coming
Yeah.
out of the exhaust pipe. So I do know that Harley Davidson came out with an all electric motorcycle, the Livewire, in 2019, and subsequently they now have 3 different models: the Livewire, the Mulholland, and the Del Mar. So I think Steve not only would want to make use of this new technology, but he would be equally concerned with protecting the environment, so not wasting natural resources. And so if he could transition to an all-electric motorcycle that provided him that same performance that he was used to, and I'm sure Stark Industries could, or Shield could bump up the performance even more, I think that he would make that jump in a heartbeat. So I do think in the new year, Steve's going to look into that.
I like it. That's a lot of fun. Of course, I think now of the Sky Cycle, right? The Sky
Yeah,
Cycle must have been electric because, like, I don't remember seeing any exhaust coming out of the Sky Cycle when he
that's
was
true.
flying through the air.
Yeah, right.
Right.
They had to use something newfangled and high techy.
Yeah,
So,
I like it.
mm. All right. Well, what do you got for number 5, Rick?
Oh, Bob, I got a shocker.
Okay.
I got a shocker. And it is, all right. I'm just going to come out and say it. Number 5 on the top 10 Captain America New Year's resolutions is propose to Sharon Carter.
OMG.
Maybe.
Wow.
I don't know. Well, maybe that's something Steve's been thinking about, right? I mean, um, is it time for them to fully commit? It'd be interesting. It'd be an interesting story. Yeah, I think leading up to him thinking about it, leading up to the proposal. What does Sharon say? Then if she says yes, leading up to the wedding. I mean,
Wow. I
we
see a
could
whole
have
range of variant covers.
yeah, yeah, and it'd be one of the biggest Marvel weddings ever, right?
Oh
But
yeah.
but I don't know. I mean, Steve, um, he, I wouldn't put it past him. He's a romantic guy.
He is.
He isn't playing the field. He knows he's got something good in Sharon Carter.
That's right.
Uh, you
That's
know,
right.
I guess the real question would be, would would Marvel ever do it?
Ooh, I know. Yeah. Relationships don't always last in the Marvel universe, Rick. And as you know, because we just talked about it with Ian, when you have that sort of relationship, um, it adds a whole new dynamic to the range of action, right, of a character and their thinking, right? I mean, if we're going to be realistic about how people respond in when they enter into marital bliss, then yeah, it changes everything. or at least a lot of it. So would they go for it? I don't know, but it would definitely be interesting to explore. And I think you're right. It could be a Marvel event of the year with lots of variant covers. But who knows? Maybe Mephisto will come along and and change it after a year or two.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, um, yeah. I mean, I think it would be interesting. It'd be fun. I mean, I could totally see why some people were like, Peter Parker is better as a miserable person than being happily married, right? But Steve, you know, I don't know. We've already seen Steve become overprotective of Ian. If he's now married to Sharon, does it
Yeah.
even, take that notch up? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Wow. What if there's a dynamic where he has to choose between
Oh,
us?
between
What's
Sharon and Ian?
a Sophie's choice?
Ah,
Yeah.
the dingo got my baby. All right, number four, Bob. What do you got?
All right. Well, I don't know if he's going to propose. Maybe he'll propose during this, but I think it's time for Steve to take a vacation with Sharon. Because the last time I remember them going away purely for a vacation was when they went to the Bahamas in Captain America 155. And we know that didn't end well,
Ooh,
right? Remember that?
yeah.
Yeah, the whole Burnside, Jack Monroe debacle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think they just need to get away, maybe, and maybe that'd be a nice time to propose. Go down to one of those all exclusive resorts where everything is included in the islands, right? And spend
Mm-hmm.
a little quality time away from crime and espionage and super bad guys.
But trouble will find them, Bob.
Trouble will always find them. Yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. They
but it'd
can't
be
help
fun.
themselves.
Right. It would be fun to see them, to go on a little vacay, spend some quality
You know
time
what would be
together.
great is if um a kind of a revisit going back to when Steve and Rachel went on that date, their first date,
Yeah, there you
and
go.
there was Anaconda and Asp, they were running interference to make sure that Rachel had an easy fun date that night with no
Right.
problems.
Yeah.
What if I don't know, Falcon and
Yeah.
Bucky and Shield, were
Yeah.
all running interference, I like that could be fun,
That could be
right?
a great story. Right. Yeah.
Right? Like Steve and,
Some
and
major stuff
Sharon.
going down, but they don't even see it going down around
No.
them. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good story. All right. So, how about number three on the list for you, Rick?
Oh, okay. So, getting back to what I was saying before about reconnecting with people, reconnecting with Ian, and you had mentioned, and you brought up an excellent point, with the writers to be like, it could be just a forgotten character. Well, there's another very important character in Steve's life from that time period where he was with Ian, that has become forgotten. It's been a decade. So I say number three, top 10 Captain America New Year resolution is check in with Jet Black.
Ooh, I like Jet Black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be careful, Bob. She can sense that you like Jet Black.
Yes, she can. Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
we
that
haven't
would be
seen
great.
her since December of 2014, which was in Captain America 25, the end of that Rick Remender volume. And that's the last time I've seen her or can do any research and find her anywhere. So I really do think she's a forgotten character. It's been over a decade.
Yeah, that's crazy when you think about it, that it has been that long since we have seen her. And she was a pretty compelling character out of Dimension Z with her brother Ian, the daughter of Zola, and she had some pretty interesting powers, and obviously a very interesting look.
Hmm.
So it's surprising that they haven't found a way to use her, even as a background character in some way in a decade.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Letter writing campaign. All right, we got to talk to Olano about this.
yeah, no, totally. Yeah, because she I think she is a really interesting character. And I do think, like, I don't know. I mean, they could pull her into Thunderbolts or
Sure.
something, right?
Yeah, something. She can be used somewhere for crying out loud. It's she's a great character, right?
Yep.
Very regal presence, a presence of almost like royal. She has like a royal sensibility about her in the way that she was raised. I find her a very interesting character.
Yeah. You say interesting, but I know what you really mean.
I'm easy to please, right?
Uh-huh.
All right.
All right, Bob, what do you got for number two?
All right. Number two on Steve Rogers' list of New Year's resolutions is to finally learn how to make a Spotify playlist.
Hey, okay.
Yeah. Now I know Zemo broke into the Avengers Mansion, destroyed all of Steve's stuff. And I know that much of that stuff had been restored, right? And so I think about Steve, and we've seen him in his apartment. And I think on occasion we've seen record players. And I think of Steve playing his 78 RPM collection of Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman and Bing Crosby and the Andrews sisters. But if you think about the fact that when Cap went into the ice, all these mediums passed him by, right? So 33 RPM long play records came out in 1948, right? And then remember those singles, the 45 RPM singles? Remember, did you ever have any of those, Rick? I'm sure you
I
must have.
did. The last one that I remember having was from 1985, Duran Duran, A View
Okay.
to a Kill.
Yeah. I remember the one that I played so much. I don't even know where I got it, but I had, what the heck, Chuck Berry, My Ding-a-Ling. I had that on a 45 RPM, played it all the time. So I also had
You
Run
played with your dingling all the time?
all the time, and David Geddes' "Run Joey Run," which I can still sing if it comes on
Mm-hmm.
the radio. So anyway, the 45s came by, and then cassettes came out in the 60s. The quadraphonic 8 tracks came out in the 70s, CDs in the 80s. Remember when Napster came out in the late 90s? That was that first peer-to-peer music streaming service that
Mm-hmm.
got
Yeah, yeah.
banned, and then Spotify finally came out in 2008. So it's time for Steve to leave the 78 RPM records behind, and move to new technology and get his Spotify list going. Rick, you were generous enough to share your holiday Spotify list with me over the holidays, and I think you know somebody's got to help Steve learn how to put together a Spotify list of his favorite songs from his era. So I think that's going to be one of his resolutions for the coming year.
All right. All right. I can dig it. And just so you know, listeners, uh, I did I did I'm a little behind like Steve. I was still making CDs mixes,
Oh yeah. Okay.
downloading music from like Apple,
Uh-huh.
and making CDs. And I think the last one I made might have been 5 or 6 years ago, and I made a Christmas album,
Uh-huh.
and I called it Christmas Favorites Gen X. So if you are a Gen Xer like me,
Uh-huh.
you probably would listen to that and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I dig all these songs." And I had a really good mix on there, and I I wanted to share it with my friend Bob and say, "Hey, Bob, here's a Spotify playlist that I made, and I thought you maybe would enjoy it and bring some holiday cheer." And Bob, you want to tell him what you said to me?
Yes, I looked through the playlist, listeners, and there's gonna be like this is gonna be there's two kinds of people in the world. So there's the kind that are gonna look at this playlist and gonna be like, sweet, this is awesome. This is like all the best Christmas songs. And then there's going to be one group of people that go, what the hell is Paul McCartney's Wonderful Christmas Time doing in here? And I'm in that group.
Simply
Oh no, don't do
having a wonderful Christmas time.
it.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's a fun
Oh,
song. It's a spirit lifting
oh
song.
my gosh.
You just wanna sing along to as loud as you can.
Yeah, it's like an earworm, right? And so over the last couple weeks, periodically, I'll find myself humming that song because of Rick, and I'll be and my wife will be like, "It's that song again, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Does she hate it too?
Oh, I don't. She hasn't shared an opinion about the
Oh,
song,
okay.
so
All
yeah.
right. Well,
And I don't want
I
to ask her because it could end our relationship. So
there's certain things you just shouldn't know about your partner.
that's it. That's one of them.
uh, well, no good deed goes unpunished, I
Indeed.
swear.
Indeed. Yeah. So, all right. Well, anyway, Rick, we're down to number one on Steve Rogers' list. What do you got?
All right, Bob. I think this one is on every Cap fan's mind for Steve Rogers. The number one in the top 10 Captain America New Year's resolutions is for Steve to get his own regular series in 2025.
I,
Uh,
yeah.
can we get Steve back on a regular series book? I hoping there's going to be an announcement soon.
Yeah, yeah. I know a lot of people are antsy about this. We're excited about the Sam Wilson, story coming out in the movie, and I understand they're, obviously Marvel wants to, cover all bases and promote as much as they can. But a lot of us fans out here of Steve Rogers want to see him back in his own book, and maybe with some appearances by Ian and Jet, and maybe a proposal to Sharon and a vacation, and who knows what else. But it's time. It's time, folks.
Yeah. So, Bob, do you have any particular creators that you would like to see take on Steve Rogers?
Well, I really enjoyed Chip Zdarsky's
Oh, you
interview.
you suck. That was the
Was it?
writer I was gonna say.
Really? See, great minds think
Yeah.
alike, Rick.
All right. Well, I'm not changing it.
Bang up job on Avengers Twilight, right? And a great interview. Understands the character, and I think he's done some great work. So let's give him a shot, folks.
I
How about
agree.
art? How about art wise, Rick?
Ooh. Um, yeah, so for art, there's a whole bunch of new artists out that I'm just not familiar with. So I don't know. I like so many different types of styles. Like I would like, for instance, Kevin McGuire. He's my favorite artist just when it comes to facial expressions, but I don't think he'd be right for a Steve Rogers book.
Yeah.
Other than the Adventures of Captain America
Right.
miniseries, right? Like,
Yeah.
but that felt like when we had Fabian Nacea on to talk about it, he was like Captain America the movie. And that's what it felt like.
Right. Yeah.
But as far as like an ongoing regular series, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many good artists out there. I wouldn't mind seeing Lee Weeks again.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Lee did that Cap Lives story
Yeah.
in the Marvel Knights series, like that was it 4 or 5 parter, and I liked his style, and so I think Lee Weeks would be good.
Yeah, that would be fun. I think that would be, like you said, there's so many new artists, and so many of them are doing a bang up job. Carmen Canero's work was just amazing, right? But yeah, I think Lee Weeks would be a great selection. I'd like to see that myself. That'd be a good pairing.
We got a big year planned ahead for the show. We talked about a bucket list of some of the things that we wanted to get to. We've got in March we're going to kick off Cap Madness, and we decided we're going to do Cap's favorite co-stars. So we're going to do 16 villains and 16 heroes, and bring it down to the top villain and top hero. And you guys are going to vote for which is your favorite Captain America co-star. So that is going to be happening in March and April. Also in April, around the NFL draft, we'll do our own Cap fantasy draft, and that will be happening sometime in mid to late April. We'll have two more guests on the show, and we'll go kind of through our drafting characters. So that'll be a lot of fun. Um, and we've got a whole slew of different creators that we're going to have on the show. And then in a another month, I think in February, we'll kick off our next long tail story, which is going to be just picking up where Secret Empire ends with the whole Nomad story. So, got a lot of stuff to look forward to in 2025.
That's a lot of goodness in store for our listeners and our viewers, of course. And so I'm looking forward to for the new year, not just because it's a new opportunity to excel, Rick, but also because it's a new opportunity to sit down with you every Tuesday night and just enjoy Cal.
Ah, well, thanks, Bob. The feeling is mutual. So come back next episode where we will do the finale to the Secret Empire, and looking forward to doing that because I don't know, Bob. I don't know how it ends, but I
Yeah,
know it's my I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
really am. Yeah, nobody sends spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Bob. Well, I hope you enjoy your New Year's Eve and your New Year's Day, and I will see you next week. And folks, if you don't mind, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and share. Send a screenshot, so we'll get you into that contest. And as always, thank you for listening to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.